recent announcement by the Trump administration is serious cause for concern for people who have already won asylum in the United States. But look, almost no one is talking about it. In this video, I'm going to tell you all about this policy change that has largely been overlooked amid a flurry of anti-immigrant moves by the government, but which could, in fact, have massive consequences for people with asylum status, as well as for people who moved on from that status to get their green card. And we're starting right now. I'm Brian Manning, and I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now, as an asylum lawyer, well, my law firm helps immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. All right, after the tragic shooting of 2 National Guard members in late November 2025 by an Afghan national who had been granted asylum in the United States, USCIS issued a new policy memorandum ostensibly centered on national security, but in reality, at least in my view, geared to deny immigration benefits and deport as many people as possible. Now, some of its contents have been widely discussed, like the pause on the issuance of asylum decisions by USCIS and the hold on processing of all immigration applications for people from certain countries. But there's another aspect of this new policy that has not gotten much attention, and honestly, it's a big deal. So let's break down what it is, who it affects, and how it might play out. Okay, what's going on here exactly? Well, the memorandum instructs USCIS to, quote, conduct a comprehensive re-review of approved benefit requests for aliens from countries listed in a certain presidential proclamation who entered the United States on or after January 20th, 2021, end quote. And it then says, within 90 days, USCIS will prioritize a list for review, interview, re-interview, and referral to ICE and other law enforcement agencies as appropriate. And look, it's this interview and re-interview part that I'm really concerned about, and I'll say more about that in a minute, but first, who is at risk here? Well, this review of cases is for people who came to the United States on or after January 20th, 2021, i.e. Joe Biden's first day as president, and they're from one of 19 countries that Trump has designated as high-risk countries. And here's the list. So it includes countries like Afghanistan, Haiti, Iran, Yemen, and Venezuela, among others. Now, the policy memorandum, or PM, says that for these people, USCIS will conduct a thorough review on a case-by-case basis to assess benefit eligibility, including whether, and then it goes on to list stuff mainly about national security. But the most troubling part, as far as I'm concerned, is the language up above in the memorandum, where it says that USCIS will also assess, quote, any other related grounds of inadmissibility or ineligibility, end quote. So the stuff about terrorism and national security is the hook. That's the justification to open back up these closed cases where a person has already received asylum or their green card and then find an excuse to take it away from them. To be clear, I don't think they're going to find legitimate security or national security concerns in the vast majority of these case reviews, as that stuff is really just pretty uncommon. But what they will find in scouring a person's entire immigration file are inconsistencies, or at least things that they can arguably paint as inconsistent. They'll find little things that seem to possibly contradict each other, and they'll find things that, no matter how insignificant they may seem or actually be, can be used to support an argument that this person lied. Because you see, if USCIS can make the case that you're not credible, well, they can say that you never established eligibility for the immigration benefit like asylum in the first place because, well, you didn't meet your burden of proof. It's basically saying, we think you're a liar, and so we're going to throw out all the stuff you've said that we relied on in granting your asylum case or your green card. And then they take it away. They revoke your asylum status or your permanent resident status or even your U.S. citizenship if you've advanced that far in the process. To be clear, as I see it, the goal is to strip people of their status. They'll use these reviews and re-interviews to hunt for information that they can use against you to justify taking your status away from you. And when they do that, when you're left without status, you'll be put into deportation proceedings. Now, the goal is to deport these people. And we're talking about people from these 19 countries who were granted asylum already, but we're also talking about people from these countries who got asylum and then went on to get their green card. These are lawful permanent residents. But look, this is not just for people who applied for asylum. It also applies to people from these 19 countries who have any legal status whatsoever in the United States, including getting a green card through marriage to a US citizen, for example. Okay, So now we know what the government wants to do and who it's targeting, but what will it look like? What's the framework here? Well, here's what the policy memorandum says. All aliens meeting these criteria undergo a thorough re-review process, including a potential interview and, if necessary, a re-interview to fully assess all national security and public safety threats, along with any other related grounds of inadmissibility or ineligibility. An individualized case-by-case review and assessment will be done of all relevant information and facts. Okay, so there are really three things going on here, right? 1, review of the file, and then for problematic cases, 2, interview for people who never had one, including asylees who went on to get a green card without having an interview for that green card, and 3, re-interview where deemed necessary. So what will that last one, the re-interview, look like? For asylees, it will likely be, or at least lead to, what's called a termination interview. The USCIS policy manual sets forth the process for taking asylum away from someone. It says that a grant of asylum does not convey a right to remain permanently in the United States and may be terminated. Now, this guidance lists several things that can lead to termination of your asylum status, but there are 2 things mentioned that I think they're really going to try to leverage here. First, there's this language saying fraud in the application pertaining to eligibility for asylum at the time it was granted is grounds for termination. And I've seen USCIS scour a person's entire immigration file and come up with alleged inconsistencies and then claim fraud. They can say that, well, due to these inconsistencies, you're found not credible, and so your testimony doesn't establish all the asylum eligibility requirements. So, you never should have been granted asylum in the first place. Second, they can take away your asylum status if you, quote, no longer meet the definition of a refugee, end quote. Now for this one, they could use a changed circumstances argument to say that, something has changed such that you no longer need protection, that you no longer have what's called a well-founded fear of persecution in your home country. Now, this could be due to a change back in your country, like, maybe the government that you feared is no longer in power, or maybe the people targeting you are dead or otherwise out of the picture. Or it could be due to a change in your personal circumstances. Now, whatever the case, if USCIS can make the argument that you no longer need protection, well, they can take away your asylum status. Now, this has actually always been the case. This power was not created by the recent policy announcement, but here's the thing. It has very rarely been used to date, but I can definitely foresee USCIS using the changed circumstances argument to strip asylum in these cases where they're doing a review and possibly a re-interview under this new policy. I think it'll be easier for them to justify revocations on this basis, changed circumstances, than it will under national security grounds. So that's what they'll do, strip asylum based on changed circumstances or due to alleged fraud. Look, not everyone from the 19 countries in question who entered from January 2021 on is going to get called for an interview or re-interview. We don't know just how wide of a net USCIS is going to cast, but I'm guessing it will encompass quite a few people. So look, if you receive from USCIS a notice about a so-called re-interview, or if you receive a letter called a notice of intent to terminate your asylum status or to rescind your status as a permanent resident, you need to call an immigration lawyer immediately. This is serious stuff. It means the government is coming after you, okay? And you're going to have to put up an incredibly strong defense to keep your status and avoid getting put into deportation proceedings. You've got to act fast because it'll take time to build a solid defense and get you prepared for the interview. We've helped people whom the government is targeting for revocation of their asylum status. And look, I've got to tell you, it's an uphill battle once they set their sights on you, but it's not impossible to win these cases. With the right support and hard work on your part in preparing to fight your case, well, you can overcome this. If you're ready to take the next step and get help with your asylum case, then please call my office today. That number is 713-909-0401. And remember, we help people all over the country, so it doesn't matter where you live. Call us right now to schedule an asylum strategy session so that we can help you to secure your future in America through asylum. Again, I'm Brian Manning, and it's truly an honor to support you in your asylum journey.